And the Bullet, where is... Okay, the Bullet's in the wrong position. We got a new glitch here, everyone. Oh, and that's resolved itself. 5 lights are on. And we go underway for the Japanese Grand Prix, and IIRacingLeague gets a cracking start and takes the lead from John B. That was a brilliant move from the Alfa Romeo, who goes straight up into the lead, and looks like there's a bit of contact at the back. Lotus, Renault and Price the Bees have unfortunately dropped down to the back. Doesn't look like they've got any major damage on them, so it looks like they'll be carrying on just fine. But what a start from the Alfa Romeo of IIRacingLeague, who has now taken the lead, crucially, from the Alpine. The top 10 running very much line astern. Greg has dropped down to 11th. Oh, now is fighting now with Jake Sharrock, who has made a brilliant start to get up to 10th. Overtaking the Mercedes of John B. So that's a brilliant way to make up for what was a not so good qualifying session and what has happened to Leca Russ at the back. He has spun in the Ferrari. Thankfully there's no lasting damage, otherwise it would have had to throw out a safety car. But that's Leca Russ dropped all the way to the back now in the Ferrari. As we catch up to the leaders, IIRacingLeague leads in front of the Alpine. We have Bullet in 3rd position, Platty in 4th, SLR Connor in the 2nd, Alfa Romeo rounds up the top 5. But more or less everyone is around on the first lap, and we're just going to see what positions have changed since the start. And here we go. They may have. Yellow's in sector 1. What's happened there? Looks like Lotus Renault has crashed out. Is that going to bring out a safety car? In which case, it may the top 4 may have pitted more or less at the right time. Oh, and the McLaren has gone off now. Yes, and that's Hyper has also gone off in the McLaren. Well, to go on board with the... But no, it looks like they've done enough to get rid of that car without throwing out a safety car. So Lotus Renault obviously is out of the race, so commiserations to him, unfortunately. As we see, Bullet now comes up to the Haas, and they are only about a 10th away from each other. It's probably not close enough to attempt something into the 130R, but he may be attempting something into the last chicane, which he doesn't do. And virtual safety car has been deployed because TRT Lucifer has now crashed out of the race. Is the leader close? Is the Alpine close enough to make overtake? No, he's not. And it'll be line astern going into the next few sections of the track. You have to be very brave to pull out an overtake and anywhere else, to be honest, because this is a track. It's not necessarily known for brilliant overtaking, unless your name ends with Senna. And as Yellow Sector God and Sun God has retired from the race now, and a full course safety car has been deployed. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Was there maybe a collision between himself and Jake Sharrock? But safety car has been deployed. What's happening here? It looks like we've got the leaders coming in. John B's in, Bullet's in, Connor's in. It's maybe a problem. Bullet is staying out. But what is everyone behind them going to do? Oh, and it looks like what's happened between Wiggles and if I'm right, it looks like Mr. SLR Connor has actually jumped up, and that puts him into a net 4th place, whereas the Bullet, who has caught the safety car, has elected to stay out. And here we go up into the spoon curve. We have the Aston Martin safety car. Run Amok has caught the back of the pack. So now, is the safety car going to be in this lap? Is it going to come in? I highly suspect that it will. Yes, it is. It's coming in at the end of this lap. Now, the Bullet has it all to do. And Price the Bees has got a penalty. It looks like for a severe collision with Sean Gregory. And Appy as well has got a penalty for collision with Run Amok. So maybe those guys have damage behind them as the race gets back underway. And that is a bad restart for John B. Is he going to be suspect here to Platty? Is he going to attempt to move down the inside? Doesn't quite look like it. You have to be quite brave to pull that off. Sean Gregory now in the pits. And SLR Connor has been overtaken by Mr. Wiggles, who on fresh softs has brought him a lot more grip. And for now has given him track position. And the Bullet is now having to defend from IIRacingLeague. But this is working very much into John B's hands, as now the slow Aston Martin is backing him up straight into the Alpine's clutches again. He's got to clear that Aston Martin very, very quickly, and I suspect if he stays with him very, very closely through the end of the spoon curve, it should be down to the 130R. Let's go on board with him to see what kind of run he gets. And Hyper has had yet another moment in the McLaren. He's not close enough. The Alfa Romeo is not yet close enough. He's going to try and move down to the outside of the chicane. No, he's not. Let's see behind. John B lurks in the distance. He's got overtake on. He has got to pass him now. Goes round to the inside. And he's got through. The Aston Martin stays on track. Now this extra lap could be very crucial for IIRacingLeague to pull out a gap between himself and the Alpine of John B. Those tyres starting to go off, and John B not wanting to try anything too risky behind should work out into his hands. But that, as I say that, the Alpine has gone through. Yes, he has gone through. And Hyper comes in to retire his car from the session, and it didn't take long certainly for the Alpine to get through, and through he has got. You can just see how much that Aston Martin is struggling on those softs. It doesn't look like a wise decision now to stay out on those tyres. It looks brilliant, but doesn't quite look, well, for some reason it's an American car and it looks Russian, which as I say, is a massive middle finger, I reckon, to the Cold War. IIRacingLeague takes the fastest lap. Platty uses his overtake to overtake the Aston Martin, and he goes up into third. Absolutely nothing. And Sean Gregory's had a moment. He's gone off in the Aston Martin. That would not have helped him out at all. Oh. So there we go. He'll be deploying his overtake with 2/10. I sense this is the Alpine's chance. He's got DRS open now. Is he going to make him go round to the outside? No, he goes down to the inside and he overtakes him. But he switches back. He switches back. Oh, was there contact? No, there wasn't. John B has retaken the lead in what was an absolutely cutthroat battle. The Alpine has regained the lead. You would have just seen that on your corners. You just the brilliant switchback. Oh, and what's happened to Platty? Platty has spun off, and has he got damage to that Haas? Not quite, it seems, but that's not a good run for him. And Leka Rus also has gone off. Doesn't look like there's any signs of it easing up because Ross will be coming back at the Alpine. Just got to stay close to this last few sectors here. Yellows for Sector B. Run Amok has retired from the session, but is that going to bring out a safety car? And yes, it is. So that has spared John B for now. This may be a good time for those on the softs, particularly Bullet. They won't lose as much time coming in to change tyres. And the Alpine comes in to... No, he fakes it. That SLR Connor goes up into 5th. 3rd, rather. Philosopher has actually come in to retire. So that is a shame for the Ferrari. It doesn't look like Platty has damage. It looks like he just lost the car. So there we go, guys. Confirmation that safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Now, it looks like the Alpine has already just dropped it. That's a good restart he's got. Yes, that's a very, very good restart. So 7/10, so... hasn't quite dropped him there. But let's see what IIRacingLeague can do to bounce back over the next few coming laps. As we see Platty... I thought it was going to go around the inside of Mr. Wiggles there. We see Jake Sharrock is in 7th. So we have yellows in Sector 1. Price of the Bees is retired. And Platty is spun yet again. And I thought you guys are going to want to say Mr. Wiggles is also retired. With 2 cars out, that's already 8 people have retired from this session. Now, I wonder... Very interesting, because the top 3 are on 8-lap on mediums. Everybody else are on new tyres. Let's see what happens here. There's only 12 people now left in this race. Let's see as John B sets the new fastest lap of a 31.2. IIRacingLeague still behind him in 2nd place. As SLR Connor not too far behind him either in 3rd. As the Bullet also catching up to the Alfa Romeo in 4th. And Sean Gregory overtakes Leco Russ in the Ferrari. The 2 Mercedes still in this race, P6 and P7, fighting between themselves. Now the key thing here is how quickly the Alpine can pull away. He's bridging close to a 2nd here. Sam Ken drops to the back. The IIRacingLeague is using a little bit more overtake. But as you'll see, coming down here is 5/10, which is going to be very, very close. This is the Constantino working there for you. As IIRacingLeague now sets the fastest lap. As everything behind them seems to be evening out. We are watching a duel for the lead between IIRacingLeague and John B. John B seems to have had quite a lot of pace throughout all scenes. Sean Gregory, that's a very valid point. He was nearly a lap down, and now he's back up to 9th place, which just shows why you just never give up at all, but not in an Eddie the Eagle sort of way. We'll just watch these two, as behind, the Bullet is catching up to SLR Connor. Platty has overtaken Sean Gregory. As the 2 Haas cars are tangling with each other now. What a view we're getting for this fight. All of them have got DRS. Platty goes round to the outside. Gregory is boxed. Can he sweep round the outside of Appy? No, I don't think he can. Still hangs about. The two of them are still fighting, going through the S's, and Appy has come out just on top. But, oh, so close, all that fighting there. Really, really great stuff to watch, and fair play to everybody there for keeping it clean. You may remember started on mediums, but it doesn't quite worked out to his favour with all of the safety cars involved. Let's go on board with these two now. It looks to be the closest gap. What a fight. I agree, our race. What a fight indeed. It's 5/10 between these two now, but that was a bad exit from the Mercedes. It's pointless overtaking coming up to 130R because the DRS detection point is coming up here, which leaves Greg vulnerable. Hopefully the best that he can hope for is a 6th place, but oh, he spun yet again. Unbelievable, but he's reset it there, so he can't do that, which means he'll be incurring a penalty. That's lap 18, Platty. Fortunately, he cannot do that. Front evens out at 1.4, 1.5 seconds. Now, what could they do from a strategy angle? Because 12 laps on mediums, yeah, they've had safety cars. It'll definitely be hard to get round to the end if it's racy conditions like this. I wonder if any of them are actually going to come in. As we look here with Bullet versus SLR Connor, he'll have DRS. Is the Aston Martin going to make the move? He goes round to the outside. Will he have it done by the time he goes into the first corner? Yes, he does. And that was lovely from the Bullet. Oh, and SLR Connor has spun. And more unbelievable scenes here. And that is such a shame because he put up a brilliant defense. As Greg also had a moment in his Mercedes. Platty has come in and changed tyres because of his contact earlier, but oh, and John B has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so that is very much going to play into IIRacing's hands. He's just got to stay with him there. And what will he do in terms of a strategy? He'll want the win, but to make those mediums last, I know IIRacing will have the same problem. But that's not good for John B. He's got a penalty now. Still pegged between the top two. 14 laps they have done on medium compound tyres. This is going to be such a tense fight. Can they get the tyres through to the end in a reasonable state? How far are they going to push? How far are they going to push each other? This is going to be hard, I think, for IIRacing to pull off. It's going to be hard, rather, for John B to pull the extra 1.5 seconds that he needs, as APS Greg goes off in the Mercedes. Now, wasn't quite the best exit there for the Alpine, which as it stands at the moment, IIRacing will win. But who knows how this race will end up at the end, as we have Appy 7/10 behind. We're going to stay on board. We're just going to see, with 8/10 behind, the DRS is not as powerful as you would want it to be. It's very much like Zandvoort, the way in that gap it needs to. So look down the order to see what's happening there. We'll have Platty on fresh softs, who surely will make quick work of APS Greg, who unfortunately had another spin. His race hasn't quite panned out the way he would have wanted it to. SLR Connor not too far behind either in the second Alfa Romeo, who, despite a brilliant defence, sadly lost that, his position, and he lost grip, and SLR Connor does the fastest lap as Platty breezes past APS Greg. As behind the field, you'll see SLR Connor has made a move on APS Greg and has taken 11th place. There's yellows in Sector 2, and that is Greg yet again having gone off. But thankfully it's not enough to throw out a safety car. It's 4 seconds now as the gap. And once again, he's just been yet again just another commanding drive once again from John B, who once again has been able to take everything that was thrown at him and just take everything on the chin and put forward a brilliant drive. Lap 25, not long now until it's going to be the end of the race. Let's see if the Alfa Romeo can pass him. We go on board. 6:10 behind might be a little bit ambitious. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the move done here. 6/10 behind is just too much. As Platty now has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But they're so close, those two. Both are on softs. SR Connor's maybe a few laps younger, but it's very, very close between these two, and it's good for Connor because if he gets into 10th, and he's got a 3-second penalty. In fact, I'm just going to run through the penalties here so everyone can see what the score is. But he's not going to attempt to move down here. Sam Ken is not too far from these guys either. This looks like Connor's best chance to go for an overtake. But has the Haas in front of him got DRS? No, he doesn't. Oh, and I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that. And it looks like Sam Ken's going to fall behind. Oh, and Platty is spun again. And that effectively hands 10th, and once he overtakes Sam Ken, 9th position to Connor. And he's crashed out. Platty is now out of the race, and I think it's way too late in the day to be throwing a safety car. It's the last lap, for crying out loud. As SR Connor is now in 9th. Score 3 points for that extra point for fastest lap. We're going to go on board with the race leader. If he makes a single mistake, he'll lose. If he loses a second here, he'll lose his time. He'll lose his lead rather. But I have to say, the top two have done very well to nurse those medium tyres. But it's been yet another commanding performance from John B. Comes round to the hairpin. Doesn't show any signs of slowing. She'll be watching every single corner that he takes because you don't want to be adding even more time to his race. The Bullet hasn't made much in terms of inroads, but Jake Sharrock has done well to recover to 4th place from crashing out in Q1. As we see the Alpine comes round the 130R. And he's come round the final corners. He rows down to the start-finish straight. Yet another win for John B. He wins the Grand Prix, beating IIRacingLeague by aggregate time by 1 second. So we have the Bullet takes 3rd position. We have Jake Sharrock, who comes across in 4th. So I have to say, brilliant recovery there. APS Rhea comes through to take 5th. With Sean Gregory taking... Oh, and Sean Gregory actually takes 5th because of his unserved penalties. John B is a man on a roll. So there we have the end result, everybody. We have John B, who wins yet another race in 81. IIRacingLeague takes 2nd, and Bullet rounds off the podium in 3rd. Both done